Okay, I think we're live. Let's go, let's go. So, as you can see, the title Dating is Hard as an Introvert. Now, before I get started, um, if you don't know me, my name's Ian and I'm 28 years old. And yes, I used to have a very shitty dating life of just as close as a year ago. And my dating life completely transformed, completely 360'd as a result of coming across this space we know as cold approach, specifically daytime cold approach. And I've been on a journey. You can see it in my channel, and lots of ups and downs. But ultimately, I've come out the other side. Much more confident when it comes to women, flirting, going on dates, having these romantic experiences. And so, yeah, I try to document that journey on this channel. And today I specifically want to talk about introvertedness, if that's even a word, because this topic comes up a lot when it comes to dating, modern dating, etc., etc. And you know, it's an interesting topic to broach because a lot of us tend to place ourselves with these labels. We say we're either introverted, extroverted. I even heard somebody describe it as ambiverted or amniverted, which I guess is a combination of both. But either way, I think it's an important topic to talk about. So here we go. Now I can see comments already. What's up, Mo? Oh, Mo, my guy Mo. Oh man, I remember you, Mo. Come on, it's been a minute. I'll answer your question at the end. Although I mean, I guess I can answer that one quickly. So you asked me, "Hey Ian, I found you through Ephraim. You're an inspiration, my brother. Sorry if this is too personal, but did you end up finding a full-time remote role?" Yeah. So on that point, so yeah, Mo. Thank you very much for the comment, bro. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that I can, yeah, be of somewhat of an inspiration. That obviously means a lot. Now, yeah, the full-time remote role. So at the moment, I'm part of a tech sales program, and I'm currently systematically working through that process. And at the end of that, I'll be looking for a role. So at the moment, I'm in between jobs. I took time to travel. Obviously, you would have seen my Thailand series. So I've just taken time for the rest of the year to travel, to sort of disconnect, relax, spend time with friends, family. I'm going to Kenya this Friday. So yeah, right now I'm in between jobs, just yeah, surviving on savings. But yeah, I'll probably be back in work next year, hopefully as early as possible. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that I'll get my remote role, specifically within tech sales. So yeah, that will be my goal, my initiative once I come back from the holidays in Kenya. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I'll talk about it for sure. But anyway, back to the live stream. So yeah, dating is hard as an introvert. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard people tell you this before, whether it's directly, friends, family, or you've seen this advice online. And it's the age-old statement, put yourself out there. We've all heard it. People say, "Hey, Ian, just put yourself out there." That's what you need to do to get dating results, or even if it's related to other stuff, right? If you want to make friends, if you're trying to make new connections and networking, you have to put yourself out there. Now, for the introverts among us, I'll speak for myself, that phrase at one point in life isn't really what you want to hear because putting yourself out there, it can be quite daunting, right? As introverts, we don't, let's say, enjoy being out and about, meeting new people, having to start conversations. We typically don't like small talk. It can be very difficult to, let's say, break the ice with people, especially in certain contexts. And so the idea of putting yourself out there, it can feel draining even before you've done it. Like just the concept. Like, sometimes I remember there were times when people would invite me to parties and different events, and just like the day of the event, I'll be thinking to myself, oh, I've got to go to this event and talk to new people and introduce myself and talk about myself and trying to establish some sort of rapport. And I would sometimes I wouldn't look forward to it. I would sort of put pressure on myself to show up and to, let's say, perform, right? Although of course that's a terrible way to look at it. And as I've done cold approach, I've realized that the issue wasn't necessarily that I was too introverted. It was more so an issue that I just had this, um, let's say, lack of confidence, right? But either way, yes, putting yourself out there can be quite a tough message to hear and a tough mission for somebody who's introverted. And I think one of the reasons why is because we like to avoid attention. We don't want to be the center of attention. We want to avoid the spotlight. And this ties into cold approach, right? So specifically with dating, you think about putting yourself out there. So just to disclose, before I even started cold approach, I decided to go and try these like speed dating events. So specifically, it was a dating app called Thursday. So it's in the UK. I think it might be in Europe as well. I'm not sure if it's in America. But it's basically like a modern dating app that also promotes like in real life or IRL dating. So they host these events where young people can go and meet other people to potentially date and connect. And so I went to one of these, and yeah, it's funny. You would go into the venue and you could see that people were kind of to themselves, and it took somebody brave enough to initiate conversation. There weren't too many people like that, at least at the start. And then once one person did it, the next person did it. And I guess the point I'm trying to make with that is that was my attempt at putting myself out there. And looking back, I'm glad I did it because it put me out my comfort zone as an introvert. But I have to admit, it wasn't easy, right? It wasn't easy. And again, also that was in a nighttime sort of bar environment because they typically host these events in bars. So it was quite difficult to to really communicate sometimes and hold conversation, and maybe I was overthinking it at the time because I lacked practice. And it can feel quite high pressure as well because even though we're all there for the purpose of dating and connecting, you also know that there's other guys there, other girls there. You're still scared of rejection, and like you have all these thoughts running through your mind. And so, as an introvert, it was already like a mission. It was already like it already took a lot of effort to get yourself to the venue. Now, once you're there, you actually have to make something happen. And that's like for somebody who's not like a naturally charismatic person, or somebody who doesn't, thrive off that social um like energy or environment, like it takes a lot out of you. So I completely relate to that, right? And one of the reasons why I actually wanted to talk about this is because I spoke to a friend recently, actually this morning, and we were talking about introversion and how it can, how when it comes to a cold approach and going out to do an approach, it's very difficult to do certain approaches where there's a heavy spotlight effect or a very bright spotlight effect, right? Because there's a lot of people around. Let's say I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you're walking and then you go to the bus, you're walking past the bus stop, and as you're about to cross the bus stop, you see a beautiful girl that you want to talk to, but there's like five other people there, right? Now, the introvert among us is very, very scared, right? Because if we try to initiate a conversation, people will listen, people will hear, people will see you, and you're gonna get all those eyes on you. And we just don't like that. We want to avoid it, right? We like to spend time by ourselves. We like to read books at home, watch podcasts, do our own thing. We thrive in that solitude. Um, and so it can be very difficult to put yourself in a situation where you're talking to a girl, trying to flirt with her. So it's not even like we're just having a normal chit chat. I'm asking for directions. Like this is a fairly personal, fairly vulnerable conversation that we're trying to create outside in the open. And people are going to be listening in. And that's a very uncomfortable scenario to imagine, let alone actually go through. So yes, yeah, I relate to that. Like that used to be me. I used to be very self-conscious about those kind of conversations and those kind of situations, which is why I avoided them. And so this is what makes dating hard, right? Because if you think about dating, like dating nowadays, or to be fair, forever, it's really about connecting with people and making as many connections as possible in as many different contexts or environments, whether it's the bar, whether it's back in the day, it used to be church, it used to be all these different third spaces, whether it's in university with the girl who sits next to you at your lecture, whether it's at the bar when you go with your friends or the club, or maybe you're invited to a house party and you meet this other girl. We have to talk, we have to introduce ourselves, we have to have conversations. And for some, it's easy. For extroverts, they thrive in those environments. And for introverts, it's a bit more difficult. So, yeah, we're in this sort of like a tense dilemma as introverts because we still want the dating life, we still want to meet new women, but at the same time, we have this default way of being, which doesn't really help that case because we have to put ourselves out there, but we don't want to do that. So this is like the code approach journey. Code approach is what essentially like gets you from here to there, even as an introvert. And I'll break that down a bit more, right? So I think the reality is this, right? If you see yourself as an introvert, I'm not gonna argue. I would say you're probably right. Yeah. So I even still to this day consider myself an introvert, but there's a big difference, and the big difference is that people, the idea of being an introvert is not. I think it's cope. I think people are using it as a bit of cope, and I say this because when I look back at my entire life, the truth is, even though I've generally been an introvert, there are moments where I can be extroverted, right? So when I'm around certain people, I can be the life of the party, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm loud. It doesn't mean that I like to be the center of attention, but in certain moments, I can be that guy who's very opinionated, very expressive, unafraid to talk, unafraid to engage with other people, unafraid to have the spotlight for a moment, right? If somebody asks me a question and I'm sat at a dinner table and it's with people, importantly, it's with people that I'm comfortable with, my friends or my family, then I can be very opinionated. I can talk loud, right? I don't wince. I don't like cower. I own my moment, let's say, even though I'm an introvert. And so I think it's more a case of we are introverted in certain environments and we're extroverted in other environments, right? And that's why I say it's a cope, because it's very easy to say, well, I can't do this because I'm wired this way. But the reality is you're using the introversion as as somewhat of an excuse because you're not introverted all the time, right? And so the reality is that maybe in that specific context, when it comes to dating, we're just incompetent. Yeah, we just don't have enough practice in those situations, right? So we use the introvert label as a reason why we can't succeed. But that's not true. And that's just a way to avoid putting yourself in those in those uncomfortable situations. And so it just takes practice, right? And, you know, it's funny because, like even nowadays, right? Like if you think about code approach, it's you're going out there, you're talking to strangers, you're opening conversations. It is unorthodox. Even for extroverts, it's not a normal thing to do. So you can imagine code approach is a very scary concept for somebody who doesn't naturally get energy from talking to people. So the jump from where you probably are right now to where you need to be in order to get successful at code approach, it's a pretty big jump. It's a pretty big jump. But the only way you get through that is through like consistent action. And that's the way that I was able to let's say, grow and let's say move past that mental barrier of I can't do this because I'm introverted, right? And like I said, it's all about practice, it's all about exposure because right now I can code approach. I don't mind being the center of attention. And I think a great way to really flex this idea or to flex this muscle of being an like let's say an extroverted introvert is to talk to strangers. Try to be as social as you can, even when you don't feel like it. And it doesn't have to be rock. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It can just be talking to the barista. Like yesterday, when I was, when I was getting my coffee, I was standing at Gale's in the line, and there was somebody in front of me, and I was looking at the sort of baked goods. There was some nice croissants and different pastries, and in my head I was thinking, this looks really good, but I don't think I'm gonna go for it because I don't want to pack on. Well, I'm skinny already, but I'm trying to be a bit healthier, especially because I was just on holiday and I was definitely eating a bit dirty. So, I looked at the treats and I thought to myself, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not going to go for this. I'll just come here to get my coffee. And then as I was thinking that, the barista, she walks to the counter and she says, "Would you like anything here?" Now, in the past, I would have just said, "No, I'm good. I just want a coffee." And then I would have gone and ordered my coffee. But and a part of me was like, you know what, let me just have a nice conversation with her. So she asked me the question and I went, yeah, you know what? I was gonna get something, but I don't want to go in. I don't want to try it because I'm trying to be a bit healthy now, and it's too tempting and it's too early. And she's now like, no, what do you mean? Like, treat yourself. It's a weekend. Like, why not? And I'm thinking, you're a bad. And I tell her, you're a bad influence. Like, you're trying to get me off the healthy route. I'm trying to be disciplined. And then, we have this nice back and forth. And then eventually she's like, well, you know what? Tomorrow you can come and you can come and get one. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, cool. So now, obviously, this isn't like a crazy conversation, but the point I'm trying to make is the more you can have these kind of conversations, you can call it flirting with the world. This is how you break out of that introvertedness, right? This is how you work on the other muscle, which is your extroverted side, because we all have this side. All of us have this side. Like right now, you guys can't hear it, but I live next to a school and I can hear all these kids screaming and shouting and playing, right? Now, at some point, we were all like these kids, right? Who are out here playing in the playground. So I think that at some level, we were all somewhat extroverted. We all used to shout and play with our friends and talk, and we all used to try and make friends with other kids. Of course, there are exceptions where we were maybe there were some kids who really were like recluse, and they just for whatever reason they struggled to really mingle with other kids. But I think for the majority of us, like we were able to talk, we were able to open conversations, we were able to ask the other kid if he can play with his toy, or ask this kid if we can play football with him, or play catch with him, or play dodgeball with him, right? We were able to do this. And so it's this like we put this label, but we forget to really take a step back, look at our past and say, have I always been this way? Have I always been extremely introverted? Or am I telling myself this because maybe in the past I tried to be confident and I got shot down, or I've been rejected a bunch of times and so I've lost confidence. And once you lose confidence, you stop speaking to as many people, you stop putting yourself out there more, and as a result of that, you lose you lose that ability to socialize in, let's say, unfamiliar environments. Because the power of being an extrovert is that they can make conversation with a lot of people in many different environments. And that's what you need with cold approach, right? You need to be someone who can put yourself out there in the public in many different environments: bus stop, crosswalk, right outside the store, coffee shop, anywhere on the street, supermarket. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like you have to be able to get above that anxiety and have those conversations and back yourself when you're having those convos. And so I think what ends up happening is we struggle with it. We struggle in this department at a certain point in life, and then we stop putting that muscle to work. And then later down the line, at the age of 28, we sit here and say, "Oh, I'm introverted, so it's not really for me." But like I said, there was a point in in your life. Maybe you have to go all the way back to childhood, right? Maybe you have to go all the way back to when you were 10 to really see that side of you that was to see that side of you that was extroverted. But I'm pretty confident that all of us had a phase where it wasn't an issue. So yeah, I say all that to say, um, like we're just incompetent, right? And we lack practice. So It's important to, use strangers, have as many interactions as you can in small, low stakes situations. Because look, the barista, she has to engage with me if I engage with her to some degree because I'm a paying customer. And so these are easy wins. These are easy wins where you can just have conversations, be a bit lighthearted. The stakes are fairly low. Of course, there are people around, so there's always going to be that spotlight effect because there were other people in the coffee line, so they can hear what I'm saying. And if I make a joke that doesn't really land, then of course other people might hear that, and so you have to just get over that hump, right? But this is what I'm talking about. Like this is how you move away from the introvert, I'm too introverted sort of talk, and then you become better. But what's funny? So I'll also bring this up because so I went on a date 2 days ago, or was it 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. Because there's a girl that I'm seeing here in London, and she's fairly introverted. I think that's one of the reasons why we connect, because she's introverted, and whenever we're together, we sometimes we have these really fun back and forths, and we talk about anything. We have a good laugh, but then other times we can just sit together in silence and not really have to talk too much. But it's funny because when I so we went to this like fun fair, like it's called Winter Wonderland, and so we went to this fun fair, and there's lots of people there, and people are there, couples are there, families are there. It's pretty loud, etc. And I can tell that she can hold herself in those environments, but she becomes a little bit quiet. And even me, naturally, I don't necessarily like to be in these really busy, loud areas. But I noticed something interesting. Like nowadays, whenever I'm in these environments, I'm actually, way more capable of just being there and being assertive, and, you know, not allowing the environment to be overwhelming. Like there was a point in time when I used to, you know, like my introvertedness was so high that I basically was like socially anxious. But now that doesn't really exist. Yeah, so maybe I have moments where it can be a bit too much, but like nowadays I'm really able to just talk to people. So at one point, there's this like marshmallow stand, and you can buy marshmallows and fry, you can put them on the fire to roast them. And so there's this like roasting pit, like a fire pit, and people can go up there, stand on the platform, and put their marshmallows in there. And so I didn't get any marshmallows, but it was cold as hell. So I was like, all right, let me just stand up on this thing and put my hands there. And then this other guy stands there, and then I'm looking at him, and he looks at me, and then like I'm like trying to see how close I can put my hands to the fire. And then this guy just, he's doing the same, and then I'm like, bro, like teach me how you do it. Like you clearly have balls of steel. Like how are you doing this? And then we have this like fun back and forth. And it's like I can kind of see like everyone around us is like smiling, laughing, and then at one point the fire like spits out sparks, and then I like over exaggerate, and I'm like, whoa. And then like everybody laughs, and we have this good time. And I can see that like the girl I'm seeing, right, she's like she always loves this kind of stuff, and we always talk about it because she calls me like the fake introvert. So we have this like running joke where I'll always tell her, yeah, I'm introverted, and she'll be like, no, you're not, you're a fake introvert. Because she can't quite believe that even though naturally I'm introverted, like I can still go above my, let's say, default state, and I can still have these conversations with people, still banter, still open different open different people, and interact with anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. And it's funny because I think this translates into your energy as well. Like people like to be around people who seem open to conversation. And the reality is this, right? And I'll probably end my let's say discussion on this topic here, right? Dating, success in dating, it's all about numbers. It's a numbers game, right? So it's a numbers game because you have to open as many people as possible, right? Like this is the key. You have to open as many women as possible in whatever context you want to do it. The point is, you have to open. But the reality is this, like somebody has to be the initiator. A lot of people are just waiting around. You hear this advice online, people say, just do your thing and then wait and it will come. You know, It will come at the right time. You don't have to put yourself out there. Don't force it. It will just magically arrive at your doorstep. My question to you is, how's that working out for you? Are women just lining up by your doorstep? And are they knocking on your door going, oh, I'm ready now. Knock, knock. Who's there? I'm here. I'm going to drop my panties now. I'm ready. No, that's bullshit. That's not happening, right? Sure, work yourself up, become better, level up in every area you can. But the reality is, regardless of where you are in life, you're going to have to open leads. You're going to have to put yourself out there. And so, if dating success is dependent on how much you open, well, then if you're using the introvert label as a reason not to open because you don't want to have the spotlight, you don't want to get attention, then brother, like this is going to be a very difficult journey, right? And yeah, it's just not going to work. So, my advice to anybody who's an introvert, just like me, believe it or not, I would say try not to view yourself in this box. Try not to box yourself in this one dimensional label. Really, really take a step and saying, okay, sure, maybe I like to spend time by myself, but I know I can work on certain aspects of my personality and put myself out in certain situations, right? and and yeah, just try and work on that muscle as much as possible. It doesn't even have to necessarily be as intense as going out to do a cold approach. Like I said, it can just be interacting with strangers. When I before I started cold approach, I came across Social Animal by Ruben, and I always have to give my flowers to Ruben and his channel, because that's what really got me thinking about this idea of being introverted. Because a lot of the people he had on his channel, because he had this subscriber challenge where he would get people to approach strangers and have conversations. And a lot of the time, the subscribers were guys, and these guys wanted to approach good looking girls because they were attracted and they wanted to have conversations. And Ruben would push them, right? And a lot of these guys were introverts. A lot of them were like nerdy types, guys like me, wear glasses, not that jacked, just like normal guys who would class themselves as introverted. But they were putting themselves out there. Obviously, Ruben was pushing them on the back and giving them motivation. But that was a great way. So in addition to that, he would also encourage us to make the joke we want to make. When you're in the elevator, make a joke. Or if you see somebody with a cool looking backpack, or I don't know, like cool shoes, and you're genuinely you know, you're genuinely impressed by this person's outfit or this person's shoes, then like give them the compliment. Like it's I think if we can just get used to talking to other people, like random people, then it can go a long way once you do it more and more, because it all stacks up and you start reconditioning your mind away from this introvert label and more so as a I'm just a flexible human being who can talk to some people and talk to anybody if I need to. And if I want to spend time by myself, then I can happily do that. If I need to go and have these conversations with this person, then I can do that. If I want to go talk to the girl at the bus stop after getting my coffee, I can do that. Like we're flexible. We are we're not like boxed. We're what's the phrase? Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, like be adaptable. Yeah, try and be the social and like be a social animal. To take it from Ruben, just try and lean into that other side. And I'm not saying like don't be yourself, because one thing when my friend brought this topic up, he made a great point about how it feels as if it can feel a bit inauthentic, right? Because it's not our natural state of being to be talkative or to communicate with other people in those, let's say, environments. So it can feel inauthentic. And I get that. It feels odd at first. It will feel odd. Like that's how I said sometimes you make a joke, it doesn't land. Sometimes you try to, be expressive and maybe you stutter a few times, or you sort of lose your train of thought and it doesn't come across as smooth. But again, please let go of this idea that you have to be perfect. Just try. Just give it a go. And eventually you'll find your feet, you'll find your flow, and talking to strangers will kind of feel like water. It will feel easy. Because that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I still have a long way to go, but I mean, compared to where I used to be, Jesus Christ, it's like so different, man. It's so different. So yeah, that's my those are my thoughts on it. So I'm gonna go through the comments again. So Mo says, would you mind talking about the program later? I want to break in as well. Yeah, sure thing. Who's the Castle said hi. What's up, Who's the Castle? Prodash BRX said hi. What's up, bro? Some Rory Tater. Assalamu alaikum from Tunisia. From Tunisia. Woo, come on, Tunisia. I want to go to Tunisia one day. You guys have yeah, it's a cool country. Helena, wow, so handsome. Helena, okay, hello, Helena. Thank you for that compliment. You say, yes, I used to be so extroverted, then I became more and more insecure. Exactly, right, yeah. I think all of us used to be very extroverted, right? And that's what happens. We lose we lose confidence when, let's say, we used to be talkative, and then maybe you go into an environment where you feel different. So I can certainly speak on this, right? So if I'm in a room full of people who I, let's say, deem myself below, or I see them as like above me, and I feel out of my depth for whatever reason, then sometimes I'm not as expressive, right? Because I'm comparing myself to them, and as a result, I sort of dim myself down, and yeah, I become insecure. So I can definitely relate to that, and that's what happens when you get older. You lose that comfortable friendship group, and then you're thrusted into the world, and you're put in all these random environments with all these new people, and it can go well or it can go poorly. But I think ultimately, the more you put yourself out there, the more you realize that, one, everybody's just as insecure as you are. You're not special. And I don't mean that in an attacking sense. I just mean, you know, a lot of the time we think that everybody else is perfect or everybody else has it figured out, but the truth is, no, they don't, even if they look like they're polished. But then, yeah, the more conversations you have, the better you'll get at this, and you'll stop overthinking it. And eventually, like I said, it will become more effortless and feel more effortless. Helena said, I feel like my personality has become so subdued compared to how I used to be. We have a lot in common. I'm also an ethnic minority living in the UK. Nice, nice. Helena asked me, am I a student currently? No, no, no. I'm not a student. No. I used to work as an economic consultant. So, yeah, I studied economics in university, and then I graduated, went into consultancy for a small company, and then I went into a big firm, a big real estate firm, and did yeah, I was like a senior economist there for a bit, and then I went into data analysis. So I went a kind of different route that took a bit of a career switch. I made a switch, and so yeah, now I'm in between jobs. So I'm just traveling for now, but I'm going back into work next year. You don't seem socially anxious. No, no, no. I mean, not anymore. Not anymore. Like I said, sometimes there are scenarios, like if I'm in a, like I said, in a room full of people who seem to be really different, then it might creep up a little bit. But I think I've put that issue to bed. I really think I have, which I'm really proud of as well, because I used to be really socially anxious. I was so much in my head. When I used to get invited to these parties, I would just think to myself, I have to. These people need to like me. Like, I don't want people to think I'm weird. Like, how do I seem cool? And I'd overthink everything. And if I slipped up once or made a joke or said something off, then it's like, God damn it! Like, it just feels so different. Nowadays, I just go in and I don't care. I have enough confidence in myself that I can hold my own. That I can, you know, show my value or whatever. I can be authentic, and if people like that, cool. If they don't like it, then it is what it is. So Mo says, I remember where you started, Ian. You're definitely him now. Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, man. It's been a journey. It's been a journey since those early school posts in the Pool University community tab. I still have those posts in my hard drive. It's been a journey. But I remember you were supporting me as well, man. So I appreciate it, man. You used to drop lots of motivational comments. So I appreciate that, man. Um, so yeah, I think, what else do I want to talk about really? Dating as an introvert. I guess that's really it. I mean, otherwise, update wise, life is good. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got the girl I'm seeing here in London, and then I'm going to Kenya, so we'll see what that's about. I'll be spending lots of time with family there, so yeah, that will be more of a family trip, maybe less approaching. But I will definitely film content out there, and I will definitely approach just to see what it's like in a new continent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then Mo, you asked about the program, so yeah, this is so actually so the program is ran by somebody that I met in in China. So on my way to Thailand, there's another British guy that I met there, and he's got a really good program. That's about yeah, it's just basically a tech sales program, but it's very one to one. It's kind of like a one to one coaching style versus doing like a course online where there isn't much interaction with anybody else. And then he also really helps with the recruitment process. So he's in touch with many different recruiters across the world. So I think his one of his biggest selling points is, he wants to make, because he knows that a lot of guys want remote work. And so he really positions himself with, or sorry, he connects with recruiters who have those specific types of like roles, and they're also located in different parts of the world, because you might want to have a remote job in the US, for example, but those companies, maybe they have limitations on how far you can be remote, because of course there's the time zone differences, and trying to operate with business hours. So yeah, he's basically got different recruiters for different locations, different areas, and of course that's up to you, or that would be up to me in terms of where I want to be located. But yeah, my goal is to get something that allows me to be very flexible. But the benefit is that I live in Europe, so I can pretty much move around Europe, which is a lot of countries, and the Middle East as well. Um, so yeah, I can drop you maybe in the comment section. I'll I'll drop you the name of the company, but I'll ask him because I don't think he's taking on many new clients right now. But I'll definitely put something in the comment section, and then maybe I can send you something by email. Yeah, but yeah, I'll let you know. Maybe yeah, maybe we can continue the conversation on the email, um, or in the comment section. John Smith says, "Do you? What's up, John?" John Smith says, "Do you go clubbing or bar game?" Ooh, not really, not really. I've never really succeeded in those environments. I tried it at one point. So before I started daytime approach, I tried to go clubbing. Maybe not clubbing, but bars, yes, for sure. Because clubs are too loud, and bars are a bit more tolerable because the music isn't as intense. Um, so yeah, I tried, and I tried to do it by myself as well. I tried to do it by myself, and yes, it wasn't for me. I've just talked about being an introvert. One thing that introverts, I can definitely say, is a fact, is we don't like loud environments. It can be quite intense. Like, I don't have the most booming voice in the world. I can be commanding if I need to be, but in bars and clubs, it's just I have to turn it up to another level. And the idea of being at a club and like having to shout in the girls' ear is not really fun. And also, I don't have that many friends that like to go clubbing either. Like, a lot of my friends are somewhat similar to me, so we prefer quieter environments. And yeah, I've also noticed that in bars, a lot of people go there with their friends in groups, so it's a bit easier. I think I think to be successful in those environments, it's easier if you're there with a pack of friends or a group of friends, because you have that like social net, that social capital, and I think that goes a long way. Yeah, no worries, Mo. I will. Yeah, I'll drop you an email for sure. I find so. John Smith says, I find clubs. I find in clubs you can pull easier, especially if you bar hop a lot. So you can do one club, a few approaches, then move on to different one. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the whole bar hopping night game scene. Like I said, because I didn't thrive in it, I just gave up entirely, and I just decided to do daytime. But yeah, I can imagine in a similar sense, right? Like earlier in the stream, I said how dating is all about opening. Yeah. So if you can just go from club to club, then that can definitely help, right? The more you open, the more you close. And yeah, I think it's great because I guess bars are good because like girls in bars are expecting to be approached in some way. Now, I'll be curious to know, John, like is that accurate, or is it more likely that a lot of guys in those settings don't actually make a move because they're too self-conscious? But I imagine that if you approach a girl in a bar, she's not going to be like confused because you're in a bar. So it's probably easier to make a move, right? And then like you said, the benefit of having lots of different bars is you can just go from venue to venue and not have to limit yourself to one location. Because like when I was in university, I went to a university where there was a like a strip, an entire street of bars and clubs. And so whenever we went for nights out, we'd go from bar to bar, club to club. And of course there were different people at different venues and they all had different vibes. One bar was a bit more hip hop, the other bar was more pop, cheesy, classic music or whatever, radio friendly music, and then another bar there was like this one like Latin kind of salsa bar, so that was a different vibe. So yeah, I definitely that was quite fun at the time. But I also don't drink that much, and when you go to these bars, you have to drink. And I spent 3 years without drinking any alcohol, up until this year. So I took a whole break, and so drinking isn't really my thing either. So of course that means that bars aren't the best solution for someone like me. John Smith says I'm in Australia, so it's easier, whereas in London it's very event centric when I went there. Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, events. It's funny because I actually prefer going to events, but the reason I prefer going to events is because in events, the focus is the event, and so like nowadays, whenever I go out in the evening, I don't go out with the intention of pulling because, like I said, it's not my environment. So it's how most guys, if they're going out to a bar, it's all likely that they're going out in the back of their mind. They're thinking, hopefully tonight I pull. Hopefully tonight I get a number. Hopefully tonight I get a girl back to mine. And so I don't have that intention anymore when I go out because my dating life is already sorted through daytime approach, so I don't have to really think about it that much. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to know the differences between Australia and London. It's funny because we've got a lot of Aussies in the UK. So I wonder if they have a similar perspective. But yeah, I mean London's really expensive as well, but at the same time London has lots of good different areas for different people. Because I think bars is like it depends on your vibe. Like if you're somebody who likes R&B, then you have to try and find an R&B sort of scene. If you're somebody who's more like a rock kind of person or you like raves, then there's parts of London like London that cater to that. But I mean, either way, to each their own. And that's another thing, right? Like I think with this whole introverted stuff, it's like if you're introverted and you prefer certain environments, then just go for those. And if you're extroverted, then do whatever helps you wherever you thrive. Ooh, I'm parched. But yeah, if you thrive in bar environments, then do your thing. This is the whole point is like find the environment that is conducive to your strengths, but at the same time, don't use your weaknesses as an excuse because yeah, like I said, the same person who says they're introverted is the same person who might eventually become more extroverted, and then everything they said before doesn't even apply. So that's my experience. But yeah, anyway, that's it for me. I'm gonna end the stream there. I'm gonna do some more work right now. In fact, I actually have to catch up with my guy on the textiles program because I'm gonna start doing the modules this week. So yeah, like I said, life is good. It's so crazy to think where I was a year ago. So much has happened, and yeah, I'm just so content, and it's crazy because it's just the beginning. There's just so much more to experience. I can't wait to travel more. I can't wait to have more romantic experiences. I can't wait to get better at the skill. And yeah, hopefully I can help you guys along the way. Um, oh wow, okay. John Smith says, when do you do these streams? It's nearly midnight in Melbourne. I mean, I try to do them around midday. So right now it's 1 p.m. in the UK. If not 1 p.m., then it's probably going to be in the evening. But yeah, I try to do it in the morning once I've had my coffee, because that's when my brain is officially lit up and all the neurons are firing. Pa, 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 pa. So I try to leverage that heightened state of attention as much as possible. So, but honestly, mate, it depends. It depends when I'm free, so I can't give you a time. But hey, man, if the value's good enough, then you're gonna do an all nighter and you're gonna stay up at 4 a.m. You know, I don't care if you're gonna lose sleep. It is what it is, bro. No, I'm joking. Get your sleep, man. But yeah, anyway, boys, that's it from me. Mo, I'll drop something in the comment section at some point. And then yeah, we can talk after that. But yeah, um, cool. Can I ask you about conversational flow? Okay, one more. You can ask, John. It's the last comment I'll respond to. Also, yeah, feel free to ask questions, guys. Obviously, not this one in this stream. I'm like only doing one more, but yeah, I'm always open to answering questions once I've already delved into the topic of the day. Anyway, until then, until I see John's comment, is there anything else I want to say? Oh yeah, I've got one more video for the Thailand series, so that will come out probably at some point today or tomorrow. Okay, so here's the last question from John Smith. What structure do you use when answering questions or telling stories during a conversation? This is an interesting one, man. Honestly, the honest answer is I don't really think about it that much, truth be told. You know, when it comes to answering questions, I just answer the question honestly. Like, as in, I answer the question with like complete honesty. I'll tell her the truth. You know. Okay, so John Smith says, for example, when they say so, when they, so I assume they is the girl, right? So, for example, when girls say, "What do you do?" or when girls say, what fun things do you get up to?" Okay. I mean, basically, I mean, typically, if somebody asks me what I'll do, I'll just say, like, for example, when I was a data analyst, I would just say, "Yeah, I'm a data analyst, and I work, at this company or whatever, and I do this." And then I'll just let them ask me another question, right? So typically, what ends up happening is I'll give them the answer, then they'll go, "Oh, okay, so like, how do you find it?" And then I'll just be honest, and I'll be like, "Oh, you know, it's okay. Like, I like the people I work with. I have lots of fun times with my colleagues, but sometimes the job can be a bit of a bore, and that's why I prefer to you know spend my free time really disconnecting or whatever. Or maybe I'll talk about a specific project that's been on my mind. Like, I try to keep it as present as possible, and be as authentic as possible, which just means basically expressing how I feel about my job or feel about whatever questions he asked me. So even when it comes to talking about hobbies and interests, I just talk about the stuff that I do. Like, I play the drums, for example. And so, I'll just tell girls, yeah, I love to play the drums. I've played the drums since I was in high school. It was like my first true love, to be honest. I remember when I first found those drumsticks, like the whole world changed for me. I would practice for hours, and I'll just talk about my passion for drums, and I'll get it animated because I genuinely love playing the drums. In fact, after this stream, I'm gonna go play some drums right now. So I'll just talk about that sort of stuff authentically. So ultimately, man, like, my structure is just try to be as authentic as possible. And if that means you have to be honest and say, yeah, I don't really like my job too much, but I'm trying to make moves and make a career switch, then you can be like honest and, let's say, come across as like a little bit, let's say, negative, but at the same time, you're still conveying that you have a path and you're trying different things and you've got some sort of ambition and all this sort of stuff, right? So just be authentic. And I try not to be too serious about anything, right? Of course, I love having deep conversations with people, especially if I'm on a date with a girl who's clearly matches that energy, then I'll go down those kind of topics as well. Um, But yeah, storytelling and yeah, storytelling is an important skill for sure, and writing is a great way to improve that side of it. And I find that even reading books, reading fiction, is really helpful as well because I like to read. I like to write as well. I've got like a private blog where I write certain essays. So yeah, and I also really love English. I did English literature in A levels. So yeah, I like to. I think yeah, having a literature background helps as well. But I mean, ultimately, you have to have the stories as well, right? So I've lived a fairly interesting life. I've been in different countries. I've grown up in different cultures. I have lots of different friends from different places, and I have lots of different experiences. So I can use those in conversations whenever they come up naturally. But yeah. Anyway, boys, that's it from me. Stream's got to 50 minutes. So yeah, take care, and I guess I'll speak to you in the next one. But peace out.